What if the key piece of evidence, literally the key, wasn't found by accident? And what if the two officers tied most closely to its discovery just happened to be the same two men under fire in a $36 million lawsuit? That's where we are. Welcome to Beach House 34's coverage of the Steven Avery trial. I'm your host, Christine Worth. In the last episode, we wrapped up Sergeant Andrew Colburn's testimony. He said he was near the bookcase, didn't see the key, and that it was Lieutenant Lenk who pointed it out. But the room setup, the physical layout, and the testimony really don't line up cleanly. And Deputy Kucharski, the only other officer in the room with Calumet County, not Manitowoc County, was distracted with paperwork. So the key shows up several days into the search, and the search of the same location, Steven Avery's trailer, the same bedroom. No one saw how. No one claims to have placed it there. And somehow Colburn, the man already under pressure, ends up connected to this key, whether he likes it or not. And now we hear from Lieutenant James Lenk himself, or at least the first part of his testimony, the man who allegedly saw the key, the man who, at least according to Colburn, was the one who pointed it out. It's time to hear his version of the story. Real quick, before we start, I know a lot of you come back each episode, but only a small percent are actually subscribed. If that's you, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all new releases. It helps more than you know. Lieutenant Lenk is called to the stand. He's sworn in, spells his last name, Lenk, and the direct examination is done by Attorney Kratz. Mr. Lenk, how are you employed? I'm employed with the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. In what capacity, sir? I'm a lieutenant of detectives. What are your duties as a lieutenant? To distribute work amongst the other detectives, to supervise other detectives, also to take cases myself. So together with the supervisory responsibility, you have an active caseload. Is that right? That's correct. How long have you been a law enforcement officer? A total of approximately 24 years. And where did your law enforcement career begin? At the Detroit Police Department in Detroit, Michigan. How long were you employed in Detroit? Just over 4 years. By the way, what did you do with the Detroit Police Department? I started out as a patrol officer. I worked undercover, vice unit, and I also worked juvenile investigations. All right. What was the next law enforcement position that you held? I worked for Michigan Bell Corporate Security, Michigan Bell Telephone. How long was that? Boy, that's quite a switch, isn't it? To go from being in a vice unit undercover to working for Michigan Bell Telephone as their corporate security. Huh. Anyway, let's continue. How long was that? Approximately 2 to 3 years. I don't recall specifically. All right. Thereafter, what did you do? I moved to Wisconsin and applied for the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. So did he retire or quit? What happened in Detroit that he would have to then apply? Or maybe you always have to apply. I don't know. Sorry about that. Let's continue. And were you successful in obtaining that position? Yes, I was. When did that start? It started December 1988. Tell the jury, if you would, what your responsibilities first were with the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. When I first got hired on the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department, I worked as a jail officer for a year. Did you move from that to something else? Yes, I moved from that to patrol officer. How long were you a patrol officer? I was a patrol officer for a short period of time, and then I went to the Metro Drug Unit. How long were you with the drug unit? Approximately a year and a half. Could you describe your progression then through the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department? After the Metro Drug Unit, I became a sergeant and I was assigned to the jail division that lasted a couple months. Then I was reassigned to the patrol division as a sergeant. At some point, did you move out of the patrol status? Yes, I did. And did you move into investigations or into the detective bureau? Yes, I did. When did that happen? Do you recall? And that was in February of 98, I believe. All right. At some point, Lieutenant Lenk, did you move into a supervisory capacity within the detective bureau? Yes, I did. When was that? Do you recall? That was May of 2003. Lieutenant Lenk, I'm going to direct your attention to November 3rd of 2005. Ask if you were first employed in the same capacity that you hold now at that time? Yes, sir. And as the lieutenant in the Detective Bureau, were you made aware of a missing persons investigation that Calumet County had begun? Yes, I was. How were you made aware of that? I received a phone call from Investigator Wiegert asking for assistance on a missing female. Is that something you worked on yourself on the third or assigned other officers? I actually assigned the work to the other officers. I stayed in the headquarters building and did miscellaneous follow-up and paperwork. You did what? I'm sorry? Miscellaneous follow-up and paperwork. Regarding this case or just other work? This case and other work. All right. Is there an individual from the Detective Bureau that you assigned to lead the Manitowoc part of this investigation? Yes, it would have been Detective Remacher. And does he have a first name? Dave. If you can assist the jury, Lieutenant Lenk, that first day, that is the first day of the missing persons investigation, the 3rd of November, what was it that your agency, that Manitowoc, was asked to assist with? We were asked to assist with the missing female, Teresa Halbach, to assist the Calumet County officer that was coming to our county to go to a couple locations. I believe at least one location to see if they could gain information to her possible whereabouts. As supervisor within the Detective Bureau, did you speak directly with Detective Remacher regarding those assignments? Yes, I did. And were you informed, were you briefed, I think is the term, by Detective Remacher regarding his findings that day? Yes, I believe I was. Did you have any conversation, direct conversation, with Calumet County that first day? Not direct conversation. I talked to Investigator Dietering, who was also the one that came over to our county. All right. Anything else happen on the 3rd other than what you have described regarding the Manitowoc's limited role that day? Don't you just love how he slipped in that word limited? And he answers, no, sir. All right. On the 4th, that would be on Friday, the 4th of November. Did you personally become involved in the Manitowoc County portion of this investigation? Yes, sir. Could you tell the jury how you became involved? Again, I received a phone call from Investigator Wiegert requesting that we go out and re-interview Steven Avery. And did you proceed to Mr. Avery's property that day? Yes, I did. Who did you go with? Detective Dave Remacher. Now, Lieutenant Lenk, had you ever been to the Avery salvage yard as of the 4th of November? No, I hadn't. Did you know where you were going on the property? No. When you got to, or did you proceed to that scene? Yes. When you got to that scene, where did you and Detective Remacher go? We turned to the right on Avery Lane, I guess it is, towards Steven's trailer. To assist in your testimony, I'm going to show you a much referred to exhibit. Oh, gosh. It's exhibit number 86. Do you recognize that exhibit? Yes, I do, sir. What is that? That's the Avery salvage yard. And when you and Detective Remacher got to this location, Tell the jury where you went. There's a laser pointer, if you need it, just to your right, if that would assist you. We came in, it's hard to tell the area here. We came in this road and we turned to the right. Why did you turn right? Habit, I guess. I just turned to the right. All right. Tell the jury where you went, please. We went down to almost to the end of the road and we exited the vehicle. Detective Remacher went up to the house trailer to knock on the door with no response, after which he went to, I believe, the Janda trailer, again, knocked on the door, no response. As we were getting ready to leave, there was a golf cart coming down the lane towards us. And who was on the golf cart? Steven Avery and his mother. Did you have occasion to make contact with both Steven and his mother at that time? We talked to Steven, yes. Upon speaking to Mr. Avery, did you and Detective Remacher ask for an opportunity to look in the inside of his trailer? Yes. Detective Remacher asked permission to look inside his trailer. And was that done? Yes, it was. How long did that take? Approximately 5 minutes. Mr. Avery cooperative during that entire process? Yes, he was. As you think back to that specific time, Lieutenant Lenk, do you have an independent memory of your sense of whether Mr. Avery may have been involved in Miss Halbach's disappearance? My memory at that point was that I did not think there was any involvement with Mr. Avery. So you, Lieutenant James Lenk, the head of the Detective Bureau on the 4th of November, didn't even think Steve was involved. Is that what you are telling us? That's correct. Let me ask you this, Lieutenant Lenk. With that having been said, did you take any steps from that point forward to either plant evidence or to ensure that Mr. Avery would be falsely accused of that homicide? No, sir, I definitely did not. It's not like, even if he did, he's going to sit up there and say, oh, yeah, that was me, right? I mean, what do you expect him to say? Let's continue. Is that something that you have ever done in your law enforcement career? No, sir, I have never planted any evidence at any time. Would you ever do something like that? No, sir, I would not. The next day, on Saturday, the 5th of November, do you remember that day? Yes, sir. What were you doing that day, if you recall? I was with my wife over near Menasha looking for a trailer for camping. Do you remember getting a call that day? Yes, sir. I believe it was a page initially. Did you speak with somebody? Yes, I did. Who was that? Detective Remacher. After getting the call from Detective Remacher, did that affect your activities that morning? Yes, sir. We stopped looking for the trailer, and I advised my wife, I have to get back. I have to go to work. What did you do then? We left the trailer sales, started to head home. We got to Oneida and 441. My wife insisted that I get something to eat because she knew that I wouldn't eat the rest of the day. So we stopped at Wendy's. Was that your idea? No, it was not. But you stopped anyway? Yes, sir. All right. Where did you go then? After we had a quick lunch at Wendy's, I went directly home. And then from home, I went to the department to pick up my vehicle and my supplies. And when you talk about picking up a vehicle, can you describe that vehicle for us, please? It's an unmarked police vehicle owned by Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. What kind of supplies did you pick up at the Sheriff's Department? A briefcase with various papers in it, radio, that type of thing. Okay. Where did you go then? I went from there to the Avery salvage yard. And again, that's exhibit number 86. Is that right? That's correct. As you sit here today, Lieutenant Lenk, do you recall about what time you arrived at that scene? It was just shortly after 2 o'clock, 2:05, somewhere in there. Now, when you got to the scene, the Avery salvage scene, had there been any kind of login or check-in procedure put in place yet? I don't recall a login at that point. All right. I just don't recall. What did you do when you got to the scene? I met with the officers that were at the scene, some from Manitowoc County, some from Calumet County. Where did you meet with them? Right at the beginning of the roadway where the command center would have been set up. Can you show us on the diagram, or excuse me, the photo? Would have been right in this area. Be an area just to the south of what we now know are the business buildings. Is that right? That's correct, sir. I'm sorry, the north of. Why would he agree and say that's correct if Kratz then turns around and says, I'm sorry, the north of? I mean, he's already agreed that it was to the south. I mean, yes, I'm being nitpicky. I know. Let's go ahead and continue. And his question, I'm sorry, the north of. When you got there, Lieutenant Lenk, were there other members of your department already on scene? Yes, there were. Do you remember who you met with or who you saw at that time? I know I talked to Deputy Inspector Shutter. I'm not real sure who else was there from our department that I talked with, quite a few officers there. From a hierarchy standpoint, or who's the boss kind of standpoint, is Deputy Inspector Shutter, or was he at the time ahead of you or on top of you regarding authority or rank within the department? Yes, sir, he was. Do you recall Lieutenant Link being involved or overhearing discussions regarding who should lead up this investigation? I believe by the time I got there that they had already decided that Calumet County would lead the investigation. All right. Were there Calumet County officers on scene? Yes, sir, I believe there were. At some point later that afternoon, do you recall other officials arriving at the scene, including myself, with the signed search warrant? Yes, sir, I do. After DAs and lead investigators got to the scene, were you asked to perform any duties at that scene? Yes, sir. We were asked to assist Calumet County. From Manitowoc County, other than Deputy Inspector Shutter, was there any individual of higher rank than you at the scene? I'm not sure. You mean from the sheriff's department? Yes. No, sir, I don't think so. All right. Now, looking at exhibit number 86 and remembering back to that first late afternoon, do you remember whether manpower issues were a factor that afternoon? Yes, sir, they were a factor. Could you describe that for the jury? What does that mean? That means that there was a very large area. The search warrants were already obtained, and there was limited manpower to search that area. I'm sure most, if not all of these potential or these jurors, have not been to a crime scene. Is this a typical crime scene by the way of size or scope? No, sir, it's not. Can you describe better or explain that for the jury, please? Most crime scenes are a smaller area, either a house or a small yard or a room. This area was immense. When you arrived, did you appreciate the size or the scope of this effort? Yes, I also got further appreciation the more I looked around the property. All right. What did you believe Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department involvement was going to be at that scene? Our involvement was to be part of the search team, basically extra eyes and hands to do the searching. Are you familiar with the term evidence tech? Yes, sir. What is that? It's an individual on the police department or sheriff's department that has had some training in how to gather evidence and package evidence at a crime scene. You talked about manpower before. Was there an abundance of evidence techs at that scene? No, sir, there was not. Are you an evidence tech, or were you? Yes, sir. Do you know at that scene what other members of Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department would have similar training or experience as an evidence tech? Yes, sir. Sergeant Andy Colburn and Detective Dave Remaker. Now, Lieutenant Link, prior to your arrival at the Avery Salvage Yard on the 5th, had you had previous dealings or contact with Steven Avery? Just the contact on the 4th of November. Do you recall being one of many individuals involved in what's called a deposition for Mr. Avery? Yes, sir. And can you please tell the jury about that process, please? Well, the process was I received a subpoena to give a deposition in the Avery lawsuit case against Manitowoc County. Did you respond to that subpoena? Did you provide testimony? Yes, sir, I did. And so the jury understands when Mr. Avery was wrongfully convicted back in 1985, were you a member of the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department? No, I was not. Then what involvement did you have? In other words, what was your part of the deposition? The part of the deposition was that I received a statement from Sergeant Colburn in 2003, I believe, September, that he had taken a phone call back in 1997 from another department. I believe he said it was Brown County Sheriff's Department, that they had in custody an individual that had committed an assault in Manitowoc County, and that Manitowoc County had someone in custody for that assault. Is that all? That's all. Did you even receive that call back in the mid-90s? No, sir, I did not. So your deposition was that you heard that Andy Colburn got such a call. Is that right? Yes, sir, I received that information from Andy himself. They make it sound so simplistic, don't they? I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more detail. Anyway, let's continue. Did that lawsuit cause you any personal or professional embarrassment? No, sir, it did not. Did that lawsuit create any angst or ill feelings on your part? No, sir, it did not. Did the fact of that lawsuit cause you any upset or aggravation or anger? No, sir, it did not. Did that lawsuit cause you or compel you to plant any evidence in this case? No, sir, definitely not. What did you feel about that lawsuit? Do you remember? I pretty much didn't care, one way or the other. All right. How were individuals assigned responsibilities out at the Avery salvage property? I believe the assignments came through the two officers in charge, Agent Fassbender and Investigator Wiegert. Was this a situation where you volunteered for a particular search or an area that you wanted to become involved? No, sir. Did you even know when you got your assignments, and we'll be talking about a couple later that week, but did you know where you were going to be assigned? No, sir. Lieutenant Lenk, were you made aware that search teams were being assembled? Yes, sir. And was there anything unique about the law enforcement officers that were being selected for those search teams, if you know? I don't know, specifically other than that they were to have a Calumet officer in charge of the team. What I'm asking, though, is the other than a Calumet County lead person involved, the others that were chosen to be on that team, did they have any unique or similar quality about them? Yes, sir. They were requesting anyone that had evidence technician experience. As a supervisor and as a longtime law enforcement officer, do you have an opinion as to why that was being done? My opinion is that they wanted the best people they could get at the scene to do the searching. So what, is he saying that they thought that Manitowoc County had better people than Calumet County? Really? What's he saying here? Let's continue. All right. At that first night, were you made a part of one of those teams? Yes, sir. Who was in charge or who was the lead officer in your search team? Sergeant Bill Tyson. Now, you are a lieutenant and he was a sergeant. Is that right? That's correct, sir. Do you have any concern or problem with taking directional orders from Sergeant Tyson? No, sir. Did you believe at that time, or actually throughout this entire investigation, that rank had anything to do with who was calling the shots? No, sir, I did not. Tell the jury, if you recall, when that first team was assembled, if there were particular responsibilities that each officer had. Each officer was assigned a certain area of searching. It was done as a team, but each officer was assigned a certain particular area of a room or living room or kitchen of an area that he was responsible for, or a team of officers would be responsible for. All right. Was there direction that your team received about items of evidentiary value and who should take them into custody or who should seize them. Yes, we were told that all evidence would be collected by Calumet County officers. All reports would be done by Calumet County officers. And basically, we were there just to assist in the searching process. Let's talk about reports for a minute. Wouldn't it be typical for each individual officer at a scene like this to do their own reports? Normally, yes. Are you saying this was different or you were given different direction? We were given different directions. Yes. The first area that you were involved personally in searching on the 5th was what? Steven Avery's trailer. Can you tell us who the other members of your search team were? Sergeant Tyson, Sergeant Colburn, and Detective Remiger. The jury has already heard this a couple of times, so we're not going to go piece by piece, I'm sure, thankfully. But could you just tell us the rooms that were searched by the search team, please? The rooms that were searched would be the southernmost bedroom, that would be Steven Avery's bedroom, the hallway, the bathroom that is next to the bedroom. Next to the bathroom area is a second bedroom that was searched. Next to the bath or the second bedroom is the living room area, followed by the kitchenette area and the kitchen. I'm not sure my math is great, Lieutenant, but how long have you been a police officer? Just total number of years? Around 24 years. In 24 years of law enforcement experience, have you been involved in searches of residences and property before? Yes, I have. Are there different kinds of searches? I'm not sure what you mean. Well, if a property, a residence, as an example, is to be searched by you or another law enforcement officer, are you familiar with the detail in which some of those searches are performed in? Yes, sir. Was this first search of the Avery property intended to be a thorough, tear the place apart type search? No, sir, it was not. It was more of a general search. All right. I guess that's my question. Maybe tell the jury what you believed a general search was. At that time, a general search was looking for any obvious signs for the missing Teresa Halbach in that trailer. It's pretty generalized at that point. Do you know about how long you guys took in that trailer? I believe it was around 2.5 hours. All right. During that initial search, did you notice any firearms in Mr. Avery's bedroom? Yes, sir. Can you describe what you saw, please? There was a gun rack above the head of the bed in the bedroom area. There were two firearms in there. I believe one was a .22 and one was a muzzle loader firearm. You said that you searched the entire trailer. After that first search was complete of Steven's trailer, can you tell the jury what you did, please? After that search was completed, I think we ended for the day. Was there some meeting or something that occurred before you left? Yes, there was a meeting at the command center. What's the purpose of that? To discuss what had been done and what needs to be done the next day. Lieutenant Lenk, anytime on the 5th of November, did you have any contact with Teresa Halbach's SUV? No, sir, I did not. Did you have any contact with her SUV on the 4th of November or the 3rd of November, or in fact, any time there before? No, sir, I did not. Were you asked to return to the property the next day, the 6th? Yes, sir, I was. And can you describe for the jury what your responsibilities were on the 6th, please? On the 6th, we met at the command center. We were assigned to Deputy Kucharski, and I believe we were to search the garage on Steven Avery's portion of the property. Describe the kind of search that was, please. Again, that was a general search for any indications of Teresa Halbach. Wait. So you're telling me that they're concerned about this missing woman? Obviously, I mean, she's missing. Nobody's seen her. And they decide, hey, one day we're going to go into the trailer And then, yeah, we're tired. We're going to go home. And then the next day come back and do the garage. They're trying to find somebody, right? If they were so concerned about her, why would they wait an overnight overnight? Why would they wait overnight to then come back and search a garage? Or I don't know, did they even search the jandas? I mean, it's like this is, this just does not seem right. I mean, you don't wanna take any chances, right? I mean, if she's out there somewhere and you wanna find her, well, you are not going to stop searching unless, weather stops you or something else stops you. I mean, this is, like, super important. But these were indoor places, right? Inside Avery's trailer, inside the garage. I don't understand why they waited overnight. Let's go ahead and continue. And he had just stated that on the 6th, they met at the command center, were assigned to, he believes, to search the garage, and then says, describe the kind of search that was, please. And says, again, that was just a general search for any indications of Teresa Halbach. Where did you go after that? I believe we either went back to the command center or received information from them for the next place to search. Do you remember how long you were in the garage? Roughly. Maybe an hour, hour and a half. I'm not exactly sure. And now the question, Lieutenant Lenk, is searching that garage for an hour or an hour and a half. Do you believe that you found or would have found everything of any evidentiary value in that garage? At that time, we thought we found everything that was of evidentiary value. Yes. Oh my God. I'm sorry. This does not make any sense to me. So, we've all heard about the garage, right? The garage is just chock full of everything. I mean, you've got it's like I think I've kind of mentioned before that it's almost like a hoarder's garage. There is all kinds of shit in here. And they were in there for an hour and a half. Yet they were in Steven Avery's trailer, which is not like a hoarder's place. His desk is a little messy, sure. He's got lots of stuff kind of just sitting around, but it's definitely nothing compared to the garage. And yet they spent like 3 hours in the house and only an hour and a half in the garage. And he's saying that even with all of this stuff in the garage, that they didn't find anything of evidentiary value. There is no freaking way. Let's continue. All right. Do you remember the interior? Oh, here we go. See, I didn't even know this. All right. Do you remember the interior of that garage as you think back? Yes, I do. Was there a lot of things in that garage? Yes, sir. It was full of things. All right. Were you informed, Lieutenant Lenk, of how long, that is, the estimated time that law enforcement was going to keep control of this scene? Did you know that first day? No, I didn't know that first day. Did you know whether you were going to do additional searches of either residences or garages or outbuildings or anything like that? Yes, we planned on doing additional searches of the buildings. Let me ask you, Lieutenant Lenk, on the 6th, that is, on that Sunday, did you have occasion to assist other officers in a search of the defendant's sister's home, that's Barb Janda? Yes, sir. Could you describe that search generally for us, please? That was, again, a general search looking for items that might relate to Teresa Halbach. Do you remember Detective Remacher noticing and investigating an answering machine at that time? Yes, sir. Were you asked to return to Steve Avery's trailer at all? Are they just skipping over like what they did in the Janda residence? I mean, maybe that's for the next day. I don't know. But boy, that was a quick switch. Resident. It's like, yeah, we go into Janda's and saw an answering machine and then says, hey, were you asked to go back to Stevens? Okay. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. Like I said, maybe we'll get back to it. And again, he's like, were you asked to return to Steve Avery's trailer at all? And he says, yes, sir. I think we were. And do you remember the scope of that? I believe we were asked to go back as a team to collect the firearms a vacuum cleaner, and the bedding, I believe, off the spare bedroom. Again, who was in charge of seizing and taking control of the evidence on that day? Calumet County Officer Deputy Kucharski. Then Attorney Kratz says, I just have two other points, Judge, and then I will recommend that we quit for the day. But let me finish this day, if I may. On the 6th, Lieutenant Lenk, were there other buildings that you were asked to search? Yes, sir, there were. What were those buildings? There was a large business office area building. I believe they called it the office. And we also searched, I believe it was Mr. Chuck Avery's residence. All right. And the same search team that is headed by Kucharski was involved in those searches as well? Yes, sir. All right. Attorney Kratz then says, I do recommend, Judge, and this may be a good time to break for the day and call this witness tomorrow morning. The court says, all right. Members of the jury, and then he gives the jury their instructions, and then Attorney Strang, the jury's already gone. Attorney Strang, then one of Steven's defense attorneys, says, Your Honor, and the court says yes. And Attorney Strang says, while we still have the jury, oh, I guess the jury's still there, my bad. I forgot to move in Exhibit 212. Sergeant Colburn 213 was only marked and need not be moved in. Attorney Kratz says no objection. And the court says 212, you are asking for admission? Attorney Strang says yes. The court says court will admit 212. Very well, you are excused for the day. And at this point, there's nothing extra. The jury leaves. The court says, all right, counsel, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Attorney Strang says 8:30. Court says yes. And Attorney Kratz says, thank you, Judge. And at this point, the proceedings for this day are concluded. So let's recap what we just heard. It's not much so far, I know, but in the next episode, we'll get deeper into his testimony. Lieutenant Lenk, one of the two officers tied to a $36 million wrongful conviction lawsuit, claims he just happened to find the key that everyone somehow missed for days in a room, a tiny room, a 9 by 12 room that had already been searched many times. And we're supposed to believe that his involvement and Colburn's had nothing to do with the lawsuit hanging over their heads. Lenk says he didn't care about the lawsuit, says he didn't feel embarrassed or angry, says he had no reason to plant anything. Okay. And let's not forget, they searched Avery's cleanish trailer for almost 3 hours, but then barely spent 90 minutes in a cluttered garage filled with potential evidence. Then, after the house, they pack it up for the night, like it's just another shift. They don't even go back to the garage. How does that make sense when a woman is still missing? The inconsistencies, the convenient discoveries, the changing timelines, the no fire under their asses type of search for who they believe right now she is a missing person, and they go home. This is not adding up. And if you feel like something's off, you're not alone. In the next episode, we'll hear more from Lenk, and we'll start to see how the defense begins to challenge the state's narrative. Until then, stay curious, stay critical, and most of all, stay loud for the people who no longer have a voice. Thank you all for listening. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so by clicking the button below. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.